Well, you've had the Fowler car system explained, and you've had me explain how I screwed it up. Where do we go from here? Come back after the titles and find out. Hey everybody, Anthony Dodge, Model Train Outside the American Outsider, back with episode 3 of the Fowler failures. And right off the bat, this should never be a negative about Fowler. This is a negative about me screwing up. But whatever happened, I kept screwing up and couldn't get it to work. And then one day, after several months of not thinking about it, I saw Wiesmann release their car system. I looked at it and there were some things I liked about it, some things I did. But what I really liked was this, the Wiesmann magnetic tape. And I will put this up in a close-up and explain to you why this made me happy. Because this eliminated a problem. I was having issues, especially with the new Fowler track, because I bought new track to try to install, and algorithms were different. Where the motors were spaced, how they were spaced apart was the same, but how it all fit together no longer fit my system. So it was either custom build a whole bunch more pieces again, or, oh look, I can use this Wiesmann tape instead. Why is the Wiesmann tape better? Well, like the Fowler wire, you can embed it relatively easy. The Fowler wire is very thin, but that means you also have to embed it very close to the surface for the magnet on the Fowler car ski to work correctly. This is wider. It will keep the car on track. If there's one weakness a Fowler car system can have is if there's a little air in the wire system, or a wire sank too low, or there's a little, I shouldn't say a little, there's an imperfection somewhere, the ski can actually lose magnetic contact with the wire, and then the car's momentum just takes it off somewhere and it will leave the track. That happens now and then with Fowler car. Okay, that's just one of the, nothing's perfect. This, because it's wider and thicker, gives more magnetic pull. And also, if there's a bump or anything that might send the wire or send the Fowler car off, it works. Now, yes, the Fowler car is magnetic, this is magnetic, but Wiesmann already accounted for that. Their polarities match. In other words, the magnet on the Fowler car ski is attracted to the magnetic force on the Wiesmann magnetic tape. They pull together perfect. I tested that just to be sure, but Wiesmann advertised that it was set up that way. So anyhow, but the nice thing is this is also flexible. I don't need the Fowler track. I don't need to custom build pieces anymore. I can just lay this out in the shape and the path I want it to run, and I don't have to worry about custom cutting pieces or the wood. Plus, I can embed this, like I said, just like the Fowler wire. I can embed this 1/8 inch grinding bit on my Dremel, and I just grind through the foam or the wood. In my case, I have 1/2 inch Owens Corning pink insulation foam board, and I just and that's what I did, and you'll see this. And I've got a few videos and pictures to show you. But I drew out my course. I laid it out, drew out my course, and then I Dremeled the grooves, and I embedded the tape. The only negative is that the tape and the Fowler car, the motor top, and I will put a picture of this motor top up. You'll see there's 4 lines on the motor top. Okay? That's for the guide wire. That's for the Fowler guide wire. And there's 1 for the traffic coming in, and then there's 3 exiting. You only put wire in 2 of them. The other straight, and then if it's a left turn out, you put some wire in the left groove. If it's a right turn out, you put some wire in the right groove. And then when the plunger from the motor hits underneath, and I'll put a picture underneath, you'll see there's 2 little holes where the plunger hits. If the car is designed to go to the right and catch the wire to the right, the plunger hits on the left. There's a force on the left, it bounces the car to the right, and it catches the wire. If you want the car to turn out to the left, you'll have a wire on the left, as well as straight, and the plunger will hit on the right, bouncing the car to the left, and it grabs the wire. So if you look at the top again, you will see that the 2 angled wires, the ones that branch off, are longer. They come closer. That way, when the car is bumped, it's not trying to decide between the straight line and the turnout. The turnout is closer to the middle where the bump's going to happen. So it gets bumped and boom, over it goes and catches that wire. And then if you don't turn the motor on, momentum will just have it straight. And even though there's a dead space in the middle where there's no magnet, momentum will have it grab the straight line. There's enough momentum in the car that it will keep going straight. It wants to keep going straight. We'll talk about momentum and inertia and everything else. It wants to keep going straight, so it will go straight and catch that wire if the motor's not on. If the motor's on, it'll thump it over to one side or the other to turn off. All right, so the only negative is that this is for the Fowler wire and it doesn't have room for this. Well, that was easily solved. I just put Fowler wire on this and left an additional 5 to 10 millimeters of wire extending off the top of this. So when I go to put these in place, I can lay the wire, which is magnetic, or is not magnetic, but is magnetized and catches on to the Fowler or the Wiesmann tape coming in. And therefore it sits on top, a little glue holds it in place. And so the car, and I've tested this on short, I have done it on the main one because I put these in, set up as I have, and the cars do follow the course. Right now they don't turn off unless I make them turn off manually because I don't have a motor doing it. I'm just installing the motors now. Alright, so that's what these 3 videos I'm about to show you are going to show you. They're going to show you how I embedded the wire. There's a little bit of some silliness where what happened is, as I mentioned, I've got 1/2-inch foam board here, Owens Corning pink foam board, and on Owens Corning pink foam board, one side has a film on it. And while I remembered to put film down on every other piece I placed on my layout, the most important area here on this table, apparently I put the wrong side up, or I accidentally grabbed the side that had film on both sides. I grabbed the piece that had film on both sides because some of their pink does do that. Anyhow, I had to rip. It was all brown. You know, you can see the layout as it was in January. It was all brown, and that brown needs to be gray because everything is concrete. So I was repainting it gray, and the brown was peeling up. And that's when I found, oh, there's still film on here. How did I screw that up? So in some of these pictures, you'll see, oh, wait, there's pink here. That's where I peeled off all. I had peeled off all the film, and then I was still in the process of repainting and repainting. But you'll see that in some of the pictures that I show as I go along. But it was a relatively easy process of, I used the Fowler car curves and marked where I wanted the tape to go, the magnetic tape, and then I just used marker and drew over the paint and drew the curves, and then used straight edges to draw straights, and I designed my bus flow pattern, the traffic pattern, that crazy figure 8 if you watched the previous video. And then I took my Dremel and the 1/8 bit, and I ground out that stuff and then refilled everything. And then I put tape in the groove to hold everything in place. So everything is set up. I don't film these while I do it. I usually hit a point and say, okay, I've stopped now, let me explain what I've done. And so that's what you're going to see in these videos. But just showing the process and how I laid things out and explain what I did. So let's watch those videos now. Okay, so I used my Dremel, which is sitting here with a 1/8 of an inch grinding bit. I was lucky to find one. And I followed the lines. Obviously you can see my shaky hands, even with using rulers and curved track as bracing guides. I still, especially when stretching across the table, you can see some wiggles in it. But I've now grounded out basically the outer loop and the figure 8 inside. So now the next step is to take this tape and put it in these holes. And what I'm going to do is I'm also going to fill these gaps, even though this is technically is adhesive. I'm going to fill this with some glue to just help fill and brace it and keep it in place. So that'll be the next step. All right, so this is about a week, almost 2 weeks after my last little video spiel on this that I'm putting together. I had a rise here, which was caused by when we moved this table one time. Part of this bumped up. Not quite sure why it happened, but when I used the Fowler car track system, I could go up it with the track. With this being embedded, the bus was struggling, and what I wound up doing is I had to cut the hill out. So that's what you can see along here. I don't know. I had to cut this down, refill it, and then level it off so that the new line is embedded on this. So now it's completely in. So next step is I'm going to paint this all sort of a concrete gray, at least it's called concrete gray. And because all of this area here is concrete with some tree boxes built in. And then I'll put the motors in, and if the motors work, I'll put the road in. So that's where we're at with this right now. Okay, so this is first coat, and to be honest, I'm very happy with the color. Now, if you're looking around the bus station, notice I didn't paint all the way in. That's because I have to move this, and it's wired underneath. So I like to do around it, dry it, and that way I can put it to one side and set it down with the wires still wired through. And then I can paint, let it set to the side on an area that's already been painted and dry. I will do a second coat of the main area, but only a single coat, a single thick coat around the bus area, because if it does dry a different shade, because it's not two coats, that actually pays off because it's more wear and tear where the buses go. But I think I did pretty good getting this gray. And if it dries a little lighter, I'll be happy. If it dries darker, not an issue either. So I think it's nice right in the middle. But at least this gives us an idea of where we're going. And again, this does not have to be straight, because eventually there will be the block and sidewalks and everything else in here. So it doesn't have to be neat. It just has to come far enough past the road, because I am going to put 2 lanes of road here, not 2 lanes of working road. Only 1 lane will actually have the wire under it working, but it'll look just that much more true to what's going in Delmenhorst, because really there's 2 lines of traffic that come this way, but because of the spacing here, I can only get 1 lane plus the bus lane. So it is what it is. But overall, I think I'm going to be happy with this. Things always look a lot better, even if they're not done well, when they've got a coat of paint on them. So that's the next step done. All right, so I've put the second coat of paint on, and I've painted around the bus station, and so the next step is to add the motors. There are 6 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I don't know how well you can see 6 with my hand. There's 6 right there, and this has to be straightened out and adjusted. This is not final location. Okay, so 4 of these, the 4 outer, are branch off or switches, and 2 are left hand. This is, the buses come one-way traffic this way. Regular cars will go straight, buses will turn off and go into the bus station. So this is a turn off left hand to get it to pull into the bus center. And then there is a right turn off, and then the stop motor would go there to stop the bus at the bus stop. Okay, so, and then that would be repeated from the other side. So 2 left-hand turnouts, 2 right-hand turnouts. Now again, this would normally be that thin Fowler wire, but I've gone with the wider Viessmann tape, and then I'm going to put a filament paper over all of this that hopefully the cars can drive over. So here are the turnout motors. Now, Viessmann just this week announced they're making their own turnout motors to work with their system. They're basically the same idea, but since I already paid for these, I'm going to see if I can get these to work with the system I'm setting up. Since I'm still basing it more on the Fowler car system than the Viessmann, I'm really just using the Viessmann tape and the superior chances that tape gives me. So what I've done is here are, notice we have a wire coming in, wire coming out, right hand turn off, right hand turn off, left hand turn off, left hand turn off. So 2 left hand turn offs. See these caps that come with the motor. Now the motor fits underneath these, so I'll turn this. The motor fits underneath these, and it has 2 different attachments depending on whether it's a left hand turnout or a right hand turnout. So it has both attachments. Because again, if the motor's not working, the car will just go straight. So we've put in a couple of wires. And the nice thing is the Viessmann ones are now designed that you'd fit the 3mm tape on these. But we'll see if we can combine them. Okay. So what have I been doing? Well, I didn't get a lot to work on this week. However, I finished a full second coat, and then first thing I did was I test fitted. Here are the motor tops for the turnout motors. And I had to make some adjustments because I lined these up at 45 degrees, and really they're more like at 22.5 degrees. So I had to adjust and then putty and fill and then repaint some of these areas. And then in the Fowler car system, the wire comes up to about halfway through or a third of the way through. There's a blank area there where there's no magnetic attraction, and then the wire continues. Now, this is all going to be under road paper like this. It'll cover it, so not an issue. So what I've done is I left, if I can get the paper out of the way, I left the wire slightly extended onto the magnetic tape. So that helps line it up. And then in the middle here is where the pulse will come that will knock the bus onto the road that takes it into the garage. So I had to test fit those, readjust those. And then today I did final fittings, and the motors are attached. The wires are hanging down underneath. I still want to go in and give these a little bit of bracing. I'm probably going to use a real thin spray foam that will just slowly expand just around the very top of it. You don't want it getting in anywhere, but just enough to help hold it in place. And yes, for those who think that's insane, I already know what I'm doing. I've tested it. So you can see here. In here, I used one of the old tops from the old layout, and I put that over the stop motor, because here's the turnout motor, and then here's the stop motor. See, originally the stop motors would have been under the road, but since I am now embedding the line, I don't have a cover, so I'm jerry-rigging a cover. Again, this will be under something, so you won't see it, but at least this gives it a solid bit, and it also keeps the magnetic tape off the magnetic motor. And then I had to cut and jerry-rig a little piece there. And so you can see how I've had to adjust things. See, the old hole was here, and that didn't matter because it was all covered by the road, the wooden road track that you use. And then here's the last one. So I will eventually glue these metal wires down to the magnetic tape, and then I will put the road tape and other stuff similar to this but without traffic lights over all this so it fits in. So now that I'll adjust this later and get this onto place, because I have to rewire this. The lights have been disconnected. The bus station signs, which are on the other side. I don't know, I'll give you an upside down view, but that's where the bus station signs are. And so I will then set this in square and start putting the road tape in. But I will do a couple of tests with the cars. Now, the bus does not like, for example, right here where there's a joint where one tape ended and I started the next one. I really tried to seal those down. But the test runs without the motors have been good, other than the bus kind of every now and then catching on these where one sticks up. But that won't matter, because when I put the road tape in, that will hold it down. It'll be a smooth surface and the bus will be fine. And the other cars as well. So that's where I'm at as of today, January 27th, I think. Now I just have to get those motors secured in place so they're not bouncing around, and wire them up and put the road tape down. All right, so that is my progress up to that point. Actually, as of today, I think I said before, I've installed the motors. The motors are not powered. I've placed them permanently in. I test fitted them in a while ago, and today I went back and I sealed them in where they are now locked into place and weight supported, so when the bus is driving over it, the cap isn't sinking, because that was the problem with the Fowler Road. There was a groove preset for this cap to sit in that supported the weight of the cars going over. The Fowler track is gone, so this was just sitting over an empty hole. And the hole is actually bigger than the cap. Actually, the motor and the cap would fall straight through the hole. I had to go back, and I used a combination of gluing some sponge in the holes to tighten them up a bit and pushing the motor in, and then just a little bit of, just a tiny bit of expanding foam, making sure, and yes, I made sure that it didn't potentially affect the motors in any way. Definitely kept it away from the electronics. It's not seeping into anything, so it's not going to screw up any of the sources. But just a little bit of that where it expands and will hold this in place. It doesn't need to be much, because especially once you put the road tape over it. So now the next step, which will be in the next video, which may be in a few days or it may be in 2 weeks, I'm going to wire things up. I've tested the motors to see that they work powered, but not since I've installed them, and I always go back and test. And then if the motors all work at this point, then I will wire them into the modules and see if they'll work with the module. So anyhow, that's enough of that. Until the next installment or whatever video I do next, I'm going to say, Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and happy trains. Take care, everybody.